Well, I think your analysis was very straight line. History doesn't run in a straight line.
Kid, you cannot tell your neighbor he is stealing ducks when you are stealing funds.
As High Commissioner, I was wrong. As Charandas Prasad, I reacted naturally how any person would have.
I did not come here for that kind of abuse. I did not come here for that kind of abuse. If you're going to go down that road, I'll walk off.
But it's all okay once they're talking. If they were talking, I could not have been here today.
You got ADHD
I
or
got
something.
calm
down.
I think I've done enough in terms of taking our team out of trouble from losing.
Tomorrow, Taylor. That's good. I'm reading the script now, and the first person that comes to my mind to play a detective,
Yes,
but
the
an
kind of
erratic
Mikhail
detective,
Rodriguez.
is Mikhail Rodriguez.
Why an African slap an Indian? Why a man and slap a woman? No, you deal with that. You deal with that.
We must encourage platforms like this because it brings together different people and allows for discussions to take place in our country on a multiplicity of fundamental issues.
Kingdom, you apologizing for something you think I did is wrong. I don't want you to do that, and you should not have done that. Good evening. Welcome to the Freddie Kissoon Show. Thanks for being with us. We are broadcasting from an iconic building in Guyana, the Guyana Cricket Club, more known throughout the generations of Guyana as GCC. We are filming in the top pavilion of the GCC, and the background is the GCC Wall of Fame. Behind the guest and the co-host is the GCC Wall of Fame. All the famous cricketers who made achievements in Guyana internationally and were nurtured by this club are at the back of us. Now, we got the privilege to film at the GCC because the president of the GCC is our guest. So he was quite willing to facilitate us. This is an election year, and lots of things are happening, not that they don't happen. But more than exciting, more than interesting things happen in an election year. So we'd like to probe the mind of one of the founders of ANUG, who's no longer with ANUG, but is a civil society spokesperson. And that is the chairman of the Guyana Cricket Club, GCC, Jonathan Yearwood. He was one of the founders of ANUG, and next to him is the present leader of ANUG, Dr. Mark France. Of course, my co-host is Leonard Craig. So we'd like to know their thoughts on what is happening, what likely to happen in Guyana leading up to the elections. So thanks for being with us, and we start with Jonathan Yearwood. Jonathan, why isn't there yet a coalition between the PNC and AFC? What do you think is going on there?
Viewers, good evening to you all, and welcome to the Georgetown Cricket Club and at this beautiful, iconic venue that we're at. Elections 2025. Will there be a coalition between the PNCR, APNO, and the AFC? That's a very difficult question to answer at this point in time, because from what I will tell you, what does the AFC bring to the table for the PNCR, APNO to say, we welcome you with open arms? Will they bring 3 seats? Will they bring 5 seats? In 2015, they came with 7 seats. But because of their actions in 2020, I don't think that they will get anything more than 2 seats, if any at all. I say if any at all. Guyanese remember what they did, and so far I haven't seen anything that they've done that has been impressive, that can attract the independent voter towards the AFC. So in my opinion, if I was the PNCR, if I was the APNU, I would say to AFC, go on your own. We will fight this battle alone today. Thank you.
Leonard?
My question is a little different though. My question or my feeling is a little different in that it is not what the AFC brings, but it's what the AFC can take if it goes alone. And the PNC needs to consider that as well. Where does ANUG stand, Dr. France? Where does ANUG stand on, I know the last time you said you're not going to pursue a coalition, but as you get closer, electoral, the atmosphere changes, and sometimes you might have to make a shift in your plans and policies and so on. Where does ANUG stand on coalition issues? That's one. And two, I saw in the newspaper AFC has been meeting several parties. Have they made any overtures to ANUG, and how is that going? And if they do, how do you see that playing out?
Hi, thank you, Mr. Kissoon and Mr. Craig. Good night to all of the viewers. ANUG has made it clear, and we haven't changed our position, and I don't foresee us changing our position that going into elections 2025, we will not be coalescing with either of the larger parties, inclusive of the AFC. So that's the PPPC, the APNU body, and the AFC, whether they go with APNU or without APNU. So that is clear. We have also been clear also that we may be looking at, based on our executive's decision, working with other like-minded smaller groupings and individuals. So that is something that is still under consideration. We've already had some conversations with some other small groupings. I wouldn't name them due to our agreement that we had with them so far. But ANUG is looking at the possibility. And for us to answer the question fully, we believe, and the numbers have proven, that a united third front or force stands the best chance of possibly having what I may deem a successful election, in that having a minority government, which, as things are looking right now, it is most likely the PPPC who will be winning the election, either with a majority or a minority, if that third grouping is put together. With regard to the AFC, we've had an initial conversation with them regarding GCOM and other issues. It was published sometime back in the past. Since then, we haven't spoken, but we have made it clear in public and at our meeting that under no agreement are we looking to coalesce with the AFC in this moment. So that is ANUG's position, and nothing has changed so far. We have seen the emergence of other parties, individuals who may have some amount of following, and these are avenues that are still to be looked at, and to see whether or not we have what it takes to work together. But currently, that is where ANUG stands.
Okay. Aren't you afraid to engage? Not afraid is not the right word, but why are you not hesitant to engage some of these quote-unquote smaller groupings, to use your word? But I feel like they are fly-by-night. Why are you not hesitant to engage them?
The truth is that any engagements we will be having with anyone, any sort of cooperation going into 2025, it will be based on policies, it will be based on ideas, and it will be based on what ANUG stands for as a political party. And so if there are individuals out there, if there are groupings, parties out there who have similar policies, similar ideas, and are willing to work for the betterment of the Guyanese people, especially having a minority government, the thoughts and the possibilities of having conversations and looking how we can iron out any differences, that is the avenue we will be taking.
T. Mohammed?
T. Mohammed has not officially launched as a political party. It's a grouping that does have support on the ground. As far as we are aware, the individual has not thrown his hat into the ring, even though we've seen chance and cause of our next president out there. But any individual who is eligible to run, and as I said, has the same policies, and we're willing to have those conversations.
Jonathan, what is your assessment of T. Mohammed? Do you think if they put their hat in the ring, so to speak, and run, they can make a dent on the political results, on the results of the next election?
First of all, I personally don't think that T. Mohammed will put his hat in the ring. I always refer back to a gentleman by the name of C.N. Sharma, well loved with his Voice of the People program, went all over Guyana and spoke to everybody, and everybody loved him until election day, when he received very, very small amounts of votes for his political party. The exact same thing will probably happen to T. Mohammed if they decide to be bold enough to enter into the political arena. Doing that kind of work that T. Mohammed is doing now, building houses, buying cars for people, whatever, that's all well and good. But will it translate into votes? When you step into the political arena, it's a completely different arena you're stepping into. One that you've never been in before, and it's constantly dramatic. It's constantly dramatic. Every single week, the General Secretary, the Vice President, General Secretary of the PPP and Vice President of Guyana has a press conference, and those of you who listen to it will know that there's always something going on. There's always something going on. And he can pick apart Team Mohammed quite easily. There's so much things that they can do against Team Mohammed. So if I was Team Mohammed, stay in my corner, do what I do, continue doing what I'm doing, but I'm not going to step into the political ring. No, I wouldn't. So I don't think he should.
Jonathan mentioned, Jonathan mentioned something there, numbers. And for me, this is very important. Since the heydays of the AFC as a third party that went on their own, we haven't seen the sort of traction that this grouping has had by any political party, ANUG inclusive. So numbers do tell something, and it's important to have a team around you, not necessarily one person. But I want to share some numbers for the Guyanese people out there. And for some reason, and we keep harking back to the numbers, the current government seems to want to keep numbers to themselves for whatever reason. So we know that the census, for example, was done since 2022. And for over 2.5 years, we haven't had that result as yet. And so the only numbers that we can be guided by, other than the international agencies, are the 2012 census numbers. So let's take a quick look. I made some quick notes there. So the 2012 census had a population of 789,000. And our population growth has been about 0.24% generally. With the situation in Venezuela, this has changed dramatically. And as such, we have seen that currently, based on the numbers that are out there, we have about a migration number, a negative migration number of about 5,000 persons leaving the country annually. So for the past 5 years, about 5,000 persons would have left. It's projected to be 0.57 for every 1,000 inhabitants of Guyana in 2025. That comes up to about 4,700 thereabouts. Now, we know that the majority of persons who migrate are of Indo-Guyanese ethnicity. For one reason or the other, the majority would move to countries like the US, Canada, England, and there the diaspora, you have a greater Indo-Guyanese population. So we can safely say that about 25,000 persons would have left in the last 5 years. And of that, the majority are Indo-Guyanese. So the numbers game there is very, very important, because if the majority of persons who are leaving the shores of Guyana are Indo-Guyanese, who we know traditionally vote for the PPPC, a seat is about 5,000, 6,000 votes. So if 2/3 of those persons, 5,000, 6,000, somewhere around there. If 2/3 of those persons are Indo-Guyanese who would have left, then you're looking at possibly the PPPC losing about 2 seats, 3 seats from what they currently have. Yes, they've made inroads into other populations. Looking at the election results, we saw the PPP coming to victory with 233,336 votes. The combined opposition, this is counting all of the small parties along with the APNU AFC coalition, 6,320 is the difference. So the PPP won by 6,000 votes. Now imagine if you would have lost about 15,000 of your traditional support. That is why the numbers are very important. And so when you look at the makeup of the 2012 census, Indo-Guyanese, 39.8%, Afro-Guyanese, 29.25%, Mixed Guyanese, 19.8%, Amerindians, 10.84, 11%. We know that the only two populations who are growing in numbers are the Mixed Guyanese and the Amerindians. So for you to win an election, and we've seen the work that is being put in by the incumbent government, you have to make inroads in the opposition strongholds, which is the Afro-Guyanese strongholds, the mixed population, which has traditionally supported the APNU or the PNC, the larger portion of that population, and the Amerindian population, which we know has, over the last 5 to 10 years, shifted hugely to the PPPC, whereby regions 1, regions 2, well, the Pomeroon area, region 9, a traditional PNC region, has gone PPP, and of course 7 and 8 also trend in that direction. So for us, it is very, very important to know the number. And for me, as a young up-and-coming politician, it is my job to do research. It is my job to do analysis. And this is one of the main reasons why I feel that the PPPC fears releasing the results of that census, because the Indo-Guyanese population most certainly has decreased in terms of a percentage of the overall population, and the other two populations that I mentioned would have increased. More importantly, we have seen that projections for the population size in this year is about 826 in 2025, 826,000. This puts us 165th in the world. Of that population, the UN estimates about 65 to 70% are persons who are 35 years and younger. Now, why is this important? Traditionally, we have voted along race because of what we would have seen or endured or grown up to. Oh, our mothers and fathers telling us that, you know what, this happened on the Burnham, or this happened on the Cherry. But this 35-year and under population, they know nothing of Burnham, they know nothing of Cherry unless they were taught or told. I am 39 years old. I was born in December 1985. Burnham would have died that same year. So I know nothing of what was the sufferation personally on the Burnham, so I cannot relate. And so the majority of persons who are going out there to vote, they cannot relate to that sufferation. But guess what they can relate to? They can relate to the election shenanigans that happened in 2020 under the APNU AFC. And this is one of the main reasons why I cannot support the APNU AFC, because they should have called the election on time, gotten the sympathy vote, built their party from within. Not only that, I made it clear when I said why we cannot work with the AFC, because their individuals need to say exactly what happened during the 2020 elections and who signed on to that PSA that we had in 2019, the production sharing agreement. Exactly who were the authors that went into the discussions, who they had to it, and why. Until they come clean, then we can start having conversations with them. Those were two of my main reasons. No, I want to see Trotman out there answering to the public. Until they do that, I will have no part. Well, my party, that is, and as long as I'm the leader, I'll have no part or interactions with them regarding a coalition or working in a coalition.
Trotman has already said that he signed that document on instructions from
the
then president.
Yes, but what I'm asking,
so that's cleared up.
What I'm asking is who exactly went and did the negotiations? Who produced that document? I want to know the individuals who were responsible, because the word on the street is that it's a document that was handed to them by the oil majors. And of course, anybody who just signed something that they were told to sign because probably we didn't know, we didn't have enough persons. For me, that is important.
Two things I pick up from what you say. First of all, you're talking about the exam. Their contract is due for renegotiation, I think, in 2026, which is next year.
27.
I think 2016 was the last renegotiation, and that was for 10 years. So there's that possibility that it could be renegotiated in 2026, 2027, thereabouts. So that to me is now a moot point because it's due for renegotiation in another year or two. Secondly, your assumption that 25,000 Guyanese have migrated are all Indo-Guyanese.
The majority.
But we know that that is not true. Guyanese migrate from all ethnicities in Guyana. Everybody, all ethnicities migrate out of Guyana. And so for you to say that based on your calculations, you're using a 100% migration rate from the Indo-Guyanese, that will lead you up a wrong road.
Actually, I didn't. I said about 2 to 3 seats, about 15,000. The majority, it has been proven, the statistics have it, the majority of persons who migrate are Indo-Guyanese. But also noteworthy to the public, and we have an organization, HIAS, the Hebrew International, it's an organization, but they've claimed that there are about 25,000 persons of Venezuelan descent or related to Venezuela who have come in. So this has also changed the migration numbers because here we have a huge influx of persons who are new to our system, who not necessarily may fall under Indo-Guyanese, Afro-Guyanese, but may be different. And so this is a sizable voting bloc if whomever can appeal to this population with the right policies and with the right directives can be a game changer. And I know each and every political party will be looking at this voting public.
Let me ask both of you, and I'd like you to be definitive. Do you see, first Jonathan, then, do you see within the realm of all possibilities, do you see a PPP victory?
A PPP what?
Victory.
Yes. And there will be no minority government. I think it will be a hands-down victory for the PPP. For one very simple reason. The opposition has done nothing to attract independent voters. The opposition has their, as Mark would say, a definitive block of people who will continue to vote for the opposition regardless of what the opposition does. But the 35,000 people who once voted for AFC and saw the skullduggery that AFC got involved in while in government and then during the elections are now rethinking, should I go back and vote for AFC? I was one of them that voted for AFC in 2015 when they joined with APNU, and I didn't like that idea. I wanted them to run individually. They went ahead and they did that. What they did in 2020, I could never vote for them. Not in 2025, because they're yet to accept the fact that they were part and parcel of what took place in 2020. So there's no way, and I think I'm an independent thinker, I'm an independent voter, and I will look at that and say, I am going to put my vote somewhere else other than APNU. Maybe I will put my vote somewhere else other than the PPP, because there are a lot of things the PPP is doing that I don't like. This is an opportunity for small parties like ANUG or whoever to step up and say, well, hey, notice me. Might be an opportunity for you to put your vote next to me. Has that been done? I haven't seen any of the smaller parties stepping up to it. So the choice comes back down to opposition or the government. While the government is not doing a lot of things that I like, they're also doing a lot of things that I do like. The infrastructure going on in Guyana it's a little uncomfortable at the moment. Building roads and whatever is a bit uncomfortable at the moment, but we know that in 5 years' time, our infrastructure will be a lot better. Transportation will be a lot easier to be on the roads. Hospitals are being built. Whether they're going to be staffed with proper nurses or doctors, that's a different issue. Schools are being built. Whether they're going to have teachers to do that, that's a different issue. We will have to import labor. That I think is a foregone conclusion, that we will have to import labor to fill these institutions. So once we put the infrastructure down there, that importing the labor is the easy part of it. Mark is talking about Venezuelans coming into Guyana, 25,000 of them. Will they be allowed to vote? will they be allowed? Are they citizens of Guyana? Have they registered with GCOM? I don't think so. I don't think a lot of them have. I don't think a lot of them will be allowed to vote. I don't think a lot of them will be interested in voting.
A lot of them will vote also because some of them are Guyanese
Of Guyanese parentage.
would have left.
My question is, have they registered? Being a Guyanese who has come back to Guyana doesn't mean that.
Yeah, but if
This is an inside man, you speak it.
if you're coming from a troubled nation, just let's assume you're not sure, right? Let's do the deduction. You're coming from a troubled nation, coming back to claim your heritage in Guyana. One of the first things you do, so that just in case somebody gets wild like Trump, nobody stops you in the street and send you back home. The first thing you do is come to claim your heritage by getting documents.
That's logical, right? That's logical. How many things in Guyana are done illogically?
No, but the people, these are not traditional Guyanese. I am not assuming, but I'm just putting it in the frame of an assumption.
Let me give you another
but I
scenario.
am not assuming.
Let me give you another
I
scenario.
can tell you that a lot of them have been registering.
Guyanese mother and father migrated from Guyana, got married in Venezuela. They had 2 children. All those children at the time were born in Venezuela. They were entitled to Guyanese citizenship.
Yeah.
They're now over the age of 14, so they were entitled to an ID card. My question here now is, have they gone to get that ID card?
My information is that they have.
Okay. Has GCOM said that? Has GCOM said that?
It is not for GCOM to say.
It's for who to say? GCOM gives the ID card.
Yeah, but GCOM is not concerned with. You see, GCOM is not concerned with how you became a citizen.
I agree.
Once you present, you see, citizenship is from a different organization.
So has GCOM's voters list increased, and if so, by how much?
It has increased. So let me answer the question.
Yes, that I directed.
That was directed.
In a definitive way.
If you
Who
had
you
told
think-
me if you had asked me 6 months ago who was winning the election, I would have told you the PPPC with 35, 36 seats. Hands down. Now, in April of 2025, given what is happening on the ground, given what I have seen with regard to individuals out there and persons clamoring for a change, a difference, I am not in belief that the PPP will win a majority if certain things fall into place. And one of those things is a possible third front coming together united. Up to this morning, I was reading some of the comments from one Terrence Campbell, someone who is in the news quite a lot, someone who has been portrayed as a possible consensual candidate by persons more in the AFC to possibly lead a coalition. And his call has been, and has always been, for a united opposition. Now, I watched Globe Span, I think it was 2 Mondays ago or last Monday, whereby Mr. Ravi Dev, Mr. Campbell, and Mr. Jonas, Timothy Jonas, SC, were on that show. And both Ravi Dev and Campbell believe that if the opposition can unite, one broad opposition, and have the right individuals leading that opposition and being part of that opposition, then that opposition stands a chance of winning. I don't believe in that. Timothy Jonas didn't believe in that. And the reason why is because of everything that happened in 2020. Persons who traditionally supported the AFC or other parties will not support the PNC.
Sorry to cut you. I want your definitive take, as Jonathan gave.
So I didn't give you.
Do you think the PPP...
So they're going to win. But if there's a united third force, they're not going to win by a majority. They're going to win a minority government, especially if a certain individual is part of that or endorses that third force.
Who's that?
The person who has the most support on the ground right now in every region, in Indo-Guyanese villages, in indigenous Guyanese villages, in Afro-Guyanese villages, and this person can go all over again and you can see that support. The only time we saw any other party with such numbers is the AFC in their heydays, 2006 to 2011. And that is what will make the difference.
And who's that person?
T. Mohammed. if T. Mohammed runs or endorses a third force, there will be a minority government.
So for Jonathan, definitively we have a PPP victory. For you, that's in the balance.
That's in the balance. It depends. Yes, they're going to win. They're going to win the presidency, the plurality, if there is a united third force. The APNU AFC, they're probably guaranteed.
There isn't
25,
going
26.
to be a opposition coalition.
No,
because
I don't
don't
foresee, and we will not be a part of it. And we believe that there must always be that third option out there for persons who choose not to support either of the two larger parties for one reason or the other.
You are asking for a consensus candidate, very possibly from T. Mohammed, to be the opposition's broad umbrella party consensus candidate, when the main opposition party, the leader of the main opposition party and leader of the opposition right now, Mr. Aubrey Norton, has clearly stated that any consensus candidate has to come from the PNCR.
No, so Johnny, you got me wrong.
Yeah,
Whatever
you get it.
consensual candidate I'm
Right.
asking doesn't has anything to do with the APNU AFC. The APNU AFC or the APNU by themselves, they will run, they will get 25, 26 seats, somewhere there, thereabouts. The other seats are up for grabs. Whether the AFC goes alone, if they go alone, I don't think they will win more than one seat, right? If, and this is a big if, the other third parties come together with this grouping that has a lot of support, that grouping can make the difference and replace what the AFC had in 2006 and 2011.
I got to get that straight from you. You're saying that if credible third parties come together, and those credible parties team up with T. Mohammed, that could be the decisive
That could be.
crush.
And that, well, you mentioned T. Mohammed, I mentioned credible third parties on the whole, and that is where I'm working.
And I'm asking you, with those credible third parties and T. Mohammed, I'm asking if you think they can create a minority.
Yes, that is the only situation that will create a minority.
Do you agree with that, Jonathan?
Let's do some mathematics. You said APNU
No,
will
no,
get
no,
26
no.
seats. Hold on. He said they will get 26 seats.
How much is he have for 26?
28 seats. And then he
How much
said,
do you have
25,
for
25, 26. That's
When
right.
you're in politics and you're dealing with mathematics, be careful.
I am different from Nigel. I am not
24
Nigel.
is a hard
I got a calculator. So we got 25.
So he didn't use a calculator too?
Apparently
Say,
not.
say 26, give them the
26
maximum,
seats.
26 seats.
How much you said that
So
PPP
five
will get?
seats are
How
up for
many,
grab.
how many seats you say
No,
PPP
no,
will
no.
get?
Working with
You said
current results.
36.
No. Let's go. Working with current results.
Uh-huh.
The opposition has 32 seats
Uh-huh.
currently. So 26, and how many makes 32? So 6 seats are up for grabs.
So you were saying that the PPP will not increase their seats in
No,
Parliament?
not if there's a united third force. I am telling you because the numbers have proven that majority of persons from the PPP or who traditionally support the PPP have migrated. Persons in those PPP enclaves support a certain team right now, right? We have persons who are looking for an alternative still. They've always been looking for alternatives. If you have the right candidate, the right team, they will go there. And of course, in the indigenous Guyanese population, we've seen traction by this grouping. So I am saying that this person is able to encroach in both the APNU AFC enclaves and the PPP enclaves.
I view it a little different from you. I am saying that APNU will get 27 seats.
Okay.
In my view, is guaranteed 27 seats, right? PPP will increase from 34 to probably 36 to 37.
33 to 30.
Okay, let's go 36. That's 63 seats. There's 2 seats up for grabs. 2 seats plus the 27 is 29. You ain't having a minority government.
I beg
You're
to
not having a
differ.
minority
I beg
government.
to differ, and I
You
stated the
having
conditions.
the PPP with an even bigger majority in Parliament.
I stated the condition. For me, it's not important. If the PPP wins by 33, it doesn't matter 34, 35, 36.
Because it
nothing
doesn't
will
change
change.
Parliament.
Nothing will
It doesn't
change in the
change in
country.
Parliament.
And so we're not going anywhere. The only difference that may happen if a third party wins 2 or 3 seats in Parliament and decides to stay independent of the majority grouping is that you may be able to have better representation, something which the AFC didn't do in 2006 and 2011 when they had the chance. That's the only difference. But I do foresee, if things go the way I am assuming and I'm hoping that they should go, that the PPP can be voted back in with the majority. Because no other party will win.
With a minority.
With a minority, rather.
So what is the other third force parties doing or plan to do to attract independent people like myself to vote for them?
Depend on Mohammed.
Say again?
Depend on Mohammed.
Policies.
You gotta be crazy.
Policies.
But Dr. Fans,
What is ANUG doing? What is LJP doing? What is TNM doing? What is
It's
what is
more
Virginia
likely,
SSR doing? What
more
is-
likely than not, LJP.
LGP is
would
with the
be
PPP. They've been there since the recount. Schuman has been there since the
Yeah,
recount.
so-
Ashes in Parliament because of the PPP. So those two do not exist. But I have had conversation with 3 other smaller parties that took part, and they're willing to support that united approach. It's
But
not
what-
finalized. We haven't decided
Having
this yet.
discussions with them
Yes.
is fine. We know elections are due November this year, late October, early November this year. It's now April. What are the smaller parties, as you were saying, what are you guys doing to attract the independent people? Sitting and having meetings among yourselves is not going to get people to vote for you.
That's okay. I can tell you for ANUG for sure that we're finalizing a manifesto that will bring differences that the PPP does not have, or what I've seen so far that has been portrayed will not have. Like for example,
Dr.
one of
Vance.
the key issues that will be raised, and you say it's 2026, renegotiation of the oil contract, something that both the APNO AFC and the PPP have reneged on. Voters will go there. We have seen the song every day by Mr. Glenn Lal regarding this, right? That is a topic that will sway voters. Looking at cash grants and how they're distributed, that is something that will sway voters. Right?
And both of which the PPP
Looking
will
at
do.
the corruption and highlighting the corruption that is happening now by the incumbent, that is something that will swing voters. So, yes.
Mark, hold a second. Hold a second. The cash grants are going on presently, and it's going to get even more now as more oil money comes in. So the PPP is in the driving seat with that. The second one with the oil renegotiation, the PPP before the 2020 election promised to renegotiate that oil contract, and people voted for them because of that, and they renegated on that. So what is to stop them from promising in 2025, we will renegotiate the oil contract, and then when the time is come to say, Mr. Exxon, sorry, but we now renegotiated.
What happened to the boy that cried wolf? Okay.
All right. I got a couple of questions.
Yes, let's go.
The first one is the census. How does releasing the census help political parties, and how does keeping it help the PPP?
So, based on the last election's results, right, the PPP has the majority. Given what I did mention, the migration rates, when you see that percentage coming down from 39.8 in 2012 to probably 35, 34, thereabouts, it means that the PPPC has to work even harder, and they are working harder, to get Afro-Guyanese votes, indigenous Guyanese votes, and the mixed votes. Now, the results would galvanize the major opposition, because most of the other populations traditionally vote for them. It would galvanize them more, but more so it would give other parties, and ANUG for example, hey, this is not guaranteed. We know it's not guaranteed, and we actually have, okay, the PPP will have to have this amount of votes from the Amerindian population, this amount of votes from the Afro-Guyanese population to have a majority. And so your message out there to get persons out, to come and vote, to support your party, if you come out and vote, and this is something that's been seen worldwide, if you come out and vote for the party that you support, then it's harder for that person who is losing votes because of migration, because of whatever else has changed in terms of the demographics of Guyana. That is what is the appeal.
But how does the census help you, knowing that for sure, because you just speculate, but knowing that for sure, that up to 2022, X amount of East Indians, Africans, Amerindians are in Guyana, and you can calculate migration rate from that. How does that help you? No, just knowing the figures.
This one,
as in different from speculating.
Humans actually work on the psyche. You work on the psyche, and politicians take advantage of it. by going out to your tradition. Say we're in Region 4, the traditional Afro-Guyanese stronghold and the AFC stronghold. They're able now, and I'm not arguing here for ANUG, I'm arguing for the major opposition, and I shouldn't probably be doing this. They're able to tell their supporters, look, we have the possibility, if we stick to our forces, if we have credible leaders, if we work together, whether it's as the PNC or whether it's the AFC, to actually have a good chance of unseating the government.
All right.
And so
Hold on,
that
hold
is
on.
where
Can
we
I
work.
jump in
Go.
here? Can I jump in
One
here?
second, one second. Census or no census, they are 500 people in Region 6. You have to reach them with a message regardless of who they are. And whether you know the census figure or not, what does that have to do with the election? That's what I'm trying to figure.
All right, let me jump in here.
Yeah.
I think Mark is using a wrong stats. I think he should be using the the GCOM preliminary list. GCOM had a claims and objection recently, and that the list generated from that
712,000
should be the list that they're using, because those are the people eligible to vote. A census tells you what a baby that's 6 months old and 3 years old, they're not eligible to vote. A preliminary voters list tells you about people who are eligible to vote. How many people are in Region 4, how many in Region 3, in Region 1, Region 2. And that way you can tailor your political campaigns to the specific regions that you think you can win better by spending your limited resources on those particular regions that GCOM says has, one, the most population, two, the people that will probably be more inclined to vote for you. So, and you will obviously don't want to spend resources in a region that only has 2,500 people eligible to vote. You prefer to spend it in maybe Region 4 where you got 250,000 people eligible to vote. So it's a matter of using GCOM's figures to allocate your finite resources as to where you want to launch your campaigns. That's how I would go about
Let me
it.
just continue.
No, just on the side. Hold that point for me quick. Just on the side though, just as a novelty thing, I'm just adding. You're talking about spending resource in major areas. Actually, I'm just telling you some inside thing. AFC did the opposite. In a lot of areas. They went into some of those, and you look back at some of those results from 2005 and 11, you'd see some small communities voted entirely AFC, because you just took those small communities, target them, and take them out the game. So the reverse can also work, right?
So,
but as I'm saying, it's limited resources that the smaller parties would have.
Yeah.
They may not have the same resources as AFC to go into a Region 8 area to win the 2,500 votes that Region 8 has, or the 3,000 votes Region 7 has, or how much ever. So they have to concentrate where they will probably get their maximum votes. Their way of winning a seat is population, not regional seats.
Yeah, because I got a question about that.
So, Jonathan mentioned something, but the census is much more than what he mentioned. The census gives you a breakdown of the youth population, for example, where they are in majority, which areas. And so the demographics in terms of ethnicity, so you're able to target specific groups with a different message. So for example, what may appeal to the urban citizen may not appeal to the rural citizen. Now, having that information, you can tailor your finances, especially for cash-strapped political parties, smaller political parties, to see where your message has most importance. If you look at the 2020 elections, the regional breakdown, you would see, like, for example, Leonard Schumann had about 800 votes in the Region 4 area. Of that, the majority came from the St. Cuthbert area, where he was from. And he had more support in 7 and 8. So you have an idea where you can go. And this brings me back to something which I have to highlight here. ANUG wrote to GCOM. We only took part in 7 regions for a breakdown of the 2020 elections in all 2,200 plus polling stations. We have not gotten a response from GCOM stating whether or not they received our email and a physical copy or any reference to that information, right? Yes, maybe they would say that, oh, as a political party, it's up to you to go and get your information out there, and you should have probably had observers in every station so that you can get the SOPs. But
why
it's
did
impossible.
why did you request that through the commissioners? The commissioners They don't have that information?
Hold on. If I remember right, that information is online on GCOM's website.
Not for every
polling station. Every polling station.
Not for every
and
polling
it's done
station.
done for every single party that took part in that polling station.
Not for every polling station.
I seem to remember having started doing
All
that.
right, we'll go and check it back. All right, because for us that is important to
I
get.
think it's there on GCOM's website.
My next question is this. I always believe, because I've been with the AFC from its birth, and I've seen AFC grow, and I understand the growth trajectory and the growth model. And I learned and I believe in an electoral machinery. Party groups spread out throughout the country. It seems to me that ANUG and the third or other small parties, I should say, think that they have a message, or it seems like they have a message, because you said you were preparing your manifesto, whatever. So let's assume you have a message. How is that message reaching the far corners of Guyana to scrape up these votes in your favor? For me, that is what is important.
Yeah, so I totally agree with you, and given our past experience in 2020, that which you mentioned, having the electoral machinery on the ground, that is most important. We saw in 2020 a famous name, if you may call them a blue blood of politics, of Guyanese politics, Ralph Ramkaran SC, being our presidential candidate. Yet, with everything, Ralph, Timothy, Jono, myself, all who would have worked for ANUG, we were only able to secure 2,313 votes. Now, could we have done things differently? Maybe. We know the issues that we had and still have with regard to finances and going to the far-flung areas. We're unable to do that. We're unable to compete against the heavyweights because, and even the PNC have been crying about funds. We are unable to compete against basically the PPP. Who can do that? Oh, we're going to hold an outreach and the government is going to go, but at the same time, we're going to politicize what we're doing and use the advantage of going in as the government and still carry our political message. Now, we have to be smart, and the good thing about the 21st century is that it has been proven all over the world that there are different ways and means of taking your message out there. Yes, grounding with the man and the woman on the street is probably still most important. Patting them on the back, having them welcome you to their homes so that you can have a sit-down meeting, that is still important. But you have to look at the other avenues that you can get your message out there.
Let me ask both of you something.
So, social media, that's where
Let
we're
me
coming
ask
back.
you something. If ANUG is a well-known name because it was founded by a well-known name and it has a well-known name in it, if the PNC and the AFC sit down and somebody get them at the table and say, listen, shut up, you can't make it with these names you are calling. Go and talk to ANUG. Go and talk to other people. If you're a medical doctor and you're head of a well-known party, if they decide, plus you're not African or Indian, if they ask you, Dr. Fans, would you be the consensus candidate?
The individual is not important for me.
No, man, answer the question, please.
Policies are most important. What is it that the APNU AFC stands for? Is it in line with what ANUG, the ANUG I joined, the ANUG I believe in, the ANUG that I still support and portray out there to the public? Is it in sync with that which we stand for? And so I'm saying that no, right now, given the history, given the trajectory, and that is just a recipe for failure. It will give ANUG more importance on the national stage.
People are saying to them.
It will give ANUG more importance on the national stage. But for me, no coalition involving the APNU AFC will be able to unseat the PPPC at the 2025 election.
So your answer is what?
No.
Jonathan, is there any possibility they asking the former ANUG head?
This is my good friend. He might try to convince me, but
Timothy Jonas.
Let me put it this way.
Could Timothy Jonas be the consensus candidate?
No, Timothy Jonas is out. He could never be a...
Timothy can't even run for ANUG.
First of all, he's a dual citizen, so he can't get into parliament. So that's straight off the bat. So don't even consider him as being a consensus candidate.
Unless he changes his mind in a couple of months.
But,
Which is unlikely.
Is
However,
he not in, as ANUG lost Timothy Jonas and Kate Jabur?
No, he's still in the party. And if you saw, well, I don't know if you watch the show that Kian does. Up to last Friday, Kian's call at I think it was the halfway section of his show, was for all third parties to come together. And this is something that he and Tim has promised to work on, trying to get prominence for third parties going forward in 2025.
But why are you not, sorry, sir?
No, Jonathan
you were
was
asking
continuing.
You were asking about the
issue of-
consensus candidate for
and you
APNU
mentioned
and AFC, whatever. So my view on that is any consensus candidate of repute, not ill repute, of repute, should be asking for control of the political mechanisms towards the election. And as a result of that, they will have to get rid of certain political people from those political parties.
Why you don't want to name some?
No, because
don't want personalization.
No, I don't want to. But what I'm saying is, both of these major political parties, PNC and forget those other ones in APNU, PNCR and AFC, both parties have a lot of baggage from 2020. A lot of baggage from 2020.
PPP have baggage from 2020.
Not PPP. I said PNCR. Forget the APNU, by the
AFC.
way, parties and the AFC.
Because they said the two major parties.
Well, meaning the two in the opposition.
Okay.
So we're looking at the PNCR and the AFC. Both has baggage from the 2020 election.
What is fine?
And they need to do one or two things. That's fine. They need to either, first of all, apologize to the nation that, hey, yeah, we tried a thing, we made a mistake, we could have go about it different, and apologize to the nation for what they put us through for the 2.5 years, because we're talking about since the no confidence motion. That's when they should have been removed as caretaker government and then have an election 3 months after. I'm going all the way back to that. The other thing is, the people with this baggage that are still powerful people within the political parties, we Guyanese still remember them. We still remember them. You did that, and you did that, and you did this, and you said that, and you did that. So as a result of that, any consensus candidate will or should be in a position to be able to remove these people from that consensus platform and say, hey, we come in at the Guyanese population with fresh candidates.
Yeah, but you're going to be degutting the strength of
well, they can work from behind the scenes, but just not be on the...
and so that would not happen, and that is why in 2025, no matter
You're not gonna
what
have a
coalition you have
candidate.
with everyone, they will not unseat the PPP.
I want to make an accusation to you, and my accusation is this. The position you are taking, the position ANUG is taking right now, is too idealistic. You do not collate with parties because all of their policies align with yours. You find 1, 2, or 3 things that are common and say, here on these 3 matters, that is how I understand coalition, and that is why AFC failed. Because while I was with the AFC and they were in government, I was trying to get them to latch on to 3 issues and say, here, we agree. With not necessarily 3, I'm just using the term 3.
It might be 5.
We agree implicitly with APNU on these 3 things, and we're working together. But we are still at variance on these others, and let the public know that we're at variance, but we are in coalition and we're working on it. So that is how I
get that. Mm-hmm. You won't agree on everything, and politics is about negotiation.
People don't agree on everything.
You never agree. It's humanistic. You're a human. You never agree on everything.
Well, that is why I made it.
But what I'm saying is that the majority of, or the most important policies you must see eye to eye. And where we are as a political party, what we started from and what we were based on when we started, a lot of those things we have seen the AFC Renation. I'm talking about the PPP because they have won. And so as a result of that, and given what Jonathan has said, and for me that is most important, given everything that happened in 2020, anyone who goes with them, you taint yourself, you give yourself that baggage that you're going to be taking into the future of your political career. And that is something I am unwilling to do as a young politician. I would rather work hard, try to see what is it, even if ANUG has to go alone in 2025, but ANUG has to be present in 2025 for us to make the impact that I can foresee us making in 2030, when there is a great possibility of change. But 2030 is coming 5 years down the line. We still have to deal with 2025.
The concept of the third party, whether United or ANUG is it or whatever, I am still skeptical that it is even possible, even with the assumed popularity of Team Mohammed. I think when the rubber hits the road and the real...
Not the rubbers that are hitting them right now.
The real electioneering starts. I think that third force you're speaking about can't sustain the rigors of the electoral season. I don't think so. However, strange things have happened in the past, and but when it comes to elections, I don't believe in strange things.
But let's say
let me answer this. Let me answer this for you. In 2020, there was a joiner. Okay, we've learned. I shouldn't say
other things
later,
say we, but there was a joiner.
I shouldn't say we, but the political parties have learned one of the downfalls of a joiner. So they have to go about a joiner. Yes. They have to go about a joiner in a slightly different manner. It has to be legalized. So you can take it to court. Now, it is my view, and the three parties in the joiner managed to get one seat. Now, if, as Mark is saying, that you have 4 or 5 other smaller parties out there, and this might seem a little far-fetched to you, but suppose AFC decides, okay, we would like to join the joiner. And the PNCR decides, we would also like to join the joiner. So what happens is that the opposition collects all of the unaccounted for votes, which may well end up being 2 or 3 seats in total, which is in addition to
2 or 3 seats?
Yes.
No, in addition to the 27 that he spoke of earlier.
Yes, because now you have all the various political parties, and when they get into parliament, they vote their own way, which is how a joiner is supposed to be. But the attempt here is what Mark would like, is to take away votes from the PPP to create a minority government. Not to win the presidency, but to create a minority government. And if that is your long-term goal for 2025 election, you have to strategize how you can do that. And to my mind, a joiner can assist in gaining some votes, might end up taking from both sides. But at least you have a voice in parliament, which should have happened this in 2020 to 2025. But they've learned lessons from that. So they take those lessons now and they legalize it. So it can't happen again. They have lawyers on all sides that can sit down and strategize how we can do this. But to me, a joiner is the way to go. And even if AFC decides I would like to join the joiner as well, it doesn't mean that we are campaigning together. It doesn't mean that we are...
It's just for the purpose of entering parliament.
That's right. It's just for that alone. It's just for that alone. It doesn't mean that we're collating. We're not coalescing at all. We're just for the sole purpose of a joiner, to gain those extra seats.
The operator signal 3.5 minutes. Okay. I just want to ask both of you. You seem to feel that you're feeling a popularity of T. Mohammed. Jonathan, you feeling that? I guess you guys go in the supermarket, you go elsewhere.
T. Mohammed is popular, but as I said, I'm comparing him to C.N. Sharma. C.N. Sharma back in the day was very popular. The day you put your hat in the ring, and I promise you, if he ever does, the PPP political animal will really come out against him. And we all know what the PPP political animal can do. The PPP is a political, I wouldn't want to use the word a monster, but it's massive. The PPP got people all over this country on the ground. And they will attack him politically, and they're doing it already. They've started doing it already. So I don't see T. Mohammed saying that they're going to jump into the ring.
You see that?
We live
in
Latin and South America. The place where populism and populist
Latin
levers...
America, no, /Caribbean.
/Caribbean, yes. Where populism takes precedence. And you've seen persons come up from nowhere and win elections. And it is a real possibility that if you have a populist candidate, which someone seems to have currently, changes can be made. But more importantly, having the right team. So, for example, let's look at T. Mohammed quickly. The individual who is the face of T. Mohammed may not be the most educated politically, may not have experience with regard to policy and policy making and everything. And we know that that's a given fact. When you listen to someone speak and what they speak on, you can get that. But if the right support is there, persons who can back him up, persons who can do their research and take down the PPP's trolls and the PPP's number guys, because we know they're out there working every day. And there are alternative numbers that are out there that can prove them wrong. And when you bring in the corruption and you have this sympathy vote, and this is something that is very important, everything that is being thrown at, for example, T. Mohammed currently now, will bring a sympathy vote. And in a country like Guyana, where the margin is very small, 6,000 votes at the last 3 elections, thereabouts, a minority government is very much possible.
I know you're talking about corruption and the PPP, whatever. Voters, please don't for one moment believe that I am pro-PPP. I am not. I'm realistic. But Mark is talking about corruption in the PPP. But yet, it is T. Mohammed's leader who is sanctioned by the USA for corruption.
Good.
So you're asking for a man who's been sanctioned by the most powerful nation in the world to come and become a leader in Guyana when he is basically unable to fly out of Guyana to go to any political meetings, any heads of government meetings, anywhere in the world, because he's sanctioned.
Good, and I am also saying that
it is
It is for the Guyanese courts to act on that information.
I want to correct you on something. Modi was denied a visit. Modi was denied a visa, and when he became prime minister, the visa
let me go.
And then
visa to where?
Let me go, Mr.
the United States.
We don't have to go.
To the United States.
We don't
Modi
have
was
to
denied
go.
No, not the United States. To United Nations.
Mr.
United
Kissoon.
Nations.
No, you can't be denied a visa to go to United Nations.
That's what I'm saying.
No.
The Americans cannot
no
deny
visa
you
to-
a visa if you were going to the United
He
Nations.
was denied a visa to go to the United States, and after he became PM, then there's the guy in Syria. There was a 10 million bounty on his head, and when he became the head of Syria, they removed the bounty. I'm just saying that for historical correction.
We can talk ad hoc about the duplicitousness of the first world countries with regard to their policies and who is good for them and when they're good, but we don't have to take it there. And that's why I'm saying it is for the Guyanese courts and the incumbent administration to act on that information and bring up a charge and have the leader of T. Mohammed and whomever else is associated with him charge placed before the courts and for the courts to render a decision. Until then, that individual has each and every right as a citizen of Guyana to do as he please, whether it's to take part in election. But let me finish. You went till to Modi and you went till to the guy in Syria. Our incumbent president had 19 charges, Trump up or not, which prevented him from going to Canada. His visa was taken away. Yet he's president today. accepted by everyone. This is someone who there were questions with regard to his education that got him to the master's level. Went in the trenches, went to the bush bottoms, went to each and every committee, hid for 6 months, seeing, meeting, and greeting the people. That is what this person is doing right now. And so there's a root around everything. And until your courts of your country can prove that you have done that, then your population has the right to support who they want to support.
Team up with Team Mohammed. I got a feeling we're out of time. Leonard, very quick question, very quick answer.
Dr. France, you work with the government,
I
right?
do.
Have you ever been harassed at your place of employment politically or shown any form of aggression by the current government?
No, most certainly not. And it's one of the reasons why I've stayed in the public system. Because I want to show young persons out there, young politicians, that it's possible for you to work within the definition of your job portfolio. I have what I still think good relationship with the Honorable Minister and the Permanent Secretary of Ministry of Health. I have worked in various departments and I have done a good job, and I try my best wherever I'm working, in whatever I'm working, to put forward my best.
Dr. France. Jonathan?
Okay?
So credit to the PPP. So the PPP is not as vindictive to its political opponents as people say.
No.
Okay.
We gotta go. Jonathan, you want to?
Viewers, thank you. I think our discussion here was quite lively. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I would like to say to Freddie and to Leonard, thank you for inviting me here. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Leno and Freddie, take care.
Thanks for watching the show. You were looking at the leader of ANUG, Dr. Mark France, and one of the founding members of ANUG, who's no longer in ANUG, but one of the most outspoken civil society activists, Jonathan Yearwood. We were coming to you through the generosity of Jonathan Yearwood, who is the president of the GCC. We were filming on the top floor of the Guyana Cricket Club against the wall of fame, the famous cricketers of the West Indies and Guyana. Thanks for being with us. Catch you later. Bye-bye.